Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered what is the difference between asset CI or install base item IBI we call it? There's always a confusion, there's always a problem statement comes to my customer's head and even I was wondering what is really about. So imagine you have a van and you get a bill of that van like it's a brand new van and you get a cost of like 5,000 but in reality a van is actually has blown up its engine. It has been sitting down there for 2 days. The finances has the receipt, but it doesn't looks like it's a reality. There's a big gap of our cost in the retail empire. Same thing, like today we are going to see how the bridge is actually connected. We build the engine that keeps the receipt and also the reality it perfect syncs. So let's dive into it. All right, so what are we going to watch today or what are we going to learn today? There are five things we will gonna cover today. That is the triangle. We will understand what is assets, what is CI, and how the what is actually install base, what is the purpose of it. Then we will look into the some hidden properties, what you can enable to make sure that we control the creation of our CIs. We will also see how the life cycle works from the creation to the delete. And then we will drive the train. Basically we will see that who drives this, basically what are the business rules actually to doing that. We'll go that deep. And finally we will also try to see how it really helps the CSDM, because that's my personal goals to understand that how CMDB works collide with the CSDM structure. And that's what we're going to do in the last section. So yeah, let's dive into the next chapter. All right, so the first triangle we need to understand is actually what is an asset. The first part of it is like the asset is like it's the same item as a CI, but it holds the financial part. So for example, if you own a car, I have an insurance paper, I have driving license, I have papers of the car. These are all part of the asset, which is the financial aspect to it. But when I go towards the other side of the car, like, hey, what kind of engine I have, what kind of tires I have, what how many RPM does it do that, how fast does it run, and all that's are ops. So in IT world, we also call it IT ops. And similarly, we have install base item. I cannot, if you lease the car, for example, you use the car and give it to a customer to use it. And that's where we use install base items. So I purchase the car, I have insurance and everything. I know what's its configuration, but now I take that car and lease it or give it to my customer to use it. And I want to track the process and people can use in see the track. Let's go very quickly into the system and see how it looks. All right, how do we find asset? Asset is definitely, you can type easily assets over here. So you can see all the assets underneath in my, under asset profile or hardware licenses and costume, other assets. It's very specific details actually that should be covered in a different section. What is an asset, what is the type of assets and everything. But let's, for now, let's keep it simple. Asset is just another part of a CI which holds the financial data. And if I click on the asset over here, I can see a lot of assets. So I'll take one example like, hey, I have a MacBook Pro 17. And if I open this, I see everything about the asset. Like for example, hey, is it in use, who it belongs to? But the more information is about like, okay, the vendor is Apple, how much does it really cost? Do we have a customer support, a cost center, and everything about the financial things. How it is actually linked with the CI. Yes, you can see that also over here on the configuration item field. When I open this, then as I told you, you can see the specs of it. What is the oil, what is the engine, how powerful it is and everything. So you can see what RAM it is, what is the operating system it's running on, how many CPU core and counts are there. You can see the specs. We don't have a direct relationship about the custom base item, but of course you can go and find it in the SN base install table. You can go it over here and then search like this, and then you'll go to this table and you can create a new item, and then you can ask in the customer support, dear, it's a part of CSM module. This doesn't come out of the box. So if you don't see this, you have to install this plugin, and then you would be able to see all the tables which are related to install base items. All right, this one is also very important to understand. Okay, some people always ask me, hey, Satpal, do you know which CI can be converted into asset and which asset can be converted into CI? Why there are some of the assets are stays only an asset, why there are some CIs? So if you want to find that answer, that actually is lies over here. We call it model categories. So under model categories, you can define it. Hey, if I have a hardware, ALM hardware, that's an asset table, a record is created, it should create an entry. And if you select a model category as AISX servers, so it will create a CI in CMDB CI AISX servers. Similarly, there are few CIs are there which cannot be converted into asset. And similarly, there are some hardwares or ALM hardware should not be converted into CI. So this is how basically you manage this is like a Bible of sync, how the CI is actually linking with the asset and asset linking with the CI. If you want, you can go into this particular CMDB model category table or just type model categories. You would be able to see by yourself. I like this because this will give you a more clarity. All right, so there are some few key properties, I would call it hidden properties within asset sync creation and IRE. So the first one, for example, we buy thousands of new scanners and we submit all of a sudden all the assets. We don't want to crash the system, because at the moment when you create, if it is false, this property glide ALM asset, what will happen? It will trigger on each asset. It will create each. What will happen on each asset? It will trigger the business rule. But if you do enable this, it will actually perform a asset CI creation in every 15 minutes. In every 15 minutes, we have a scheduled job runs in the background and do that. So it will not crash the system. It will not slow down the system. So this is a little trick. It's very handy. And you also may be wondering why I these days see SN asset management as a discovery source when I see um, on my assets. So that's because if someone creates these days with manually in CI in the asset table, it creates a CI with if the property, this particular property is true. So for example, you create a record, go to ALM hardware at table and then create a new entry. You put the category and you hit enter. It is the discovery source is marked as an asset management, so it's easy to identify. It is created manually. Let's have a quick demo how the life cycle of asset in CI works. Imagine you have a car, you just brought a new one. How do you create that entry in the system? If you want to retire that particular CI, how do you retire it, and does it really sync back to an asset? And if you want to delete that, you maintain the life cycle of a CI. It needs to be disposed and get away. It's a good cleanup of your data. Let's have a quick look over here. Let's go into the system, and now we see the hardware table. Let's click on new. select model category as computer, and then I'll select Apple 13. In journal, definitely we have a serial number mandatory these days. And I say, hey, assign to Beth England. And I say, okay, that is, you can see that the things are coming automatically as soon as I select Beth England. That's great. And we have a cost associated. That's because coming from the model, I believe. That's how do you, if you know that, hey, how do I know the cost? Because it's coming from here. If I open the particular model, you can have a quick look over in the model section. And I don't see any configuration item created at the moment. I'll go and save the record. And as soon as I submit it, I can see my serial number plus my name of the Apple is created. And if I open this record, you can see, hey, Beth Anglin is also synced over here. Serial number is synced, everything in the underneath, it's completed there. That's the creation part. How do we retire it? I mean, of course, you can go back to the asset. You can click back here. And if I want to say that, okay, I feel like now it needs to be retired. So I say, hey, this is retired now. It's disposed, and I update it. Once you do that, I see that my CI is should be also retired. I very quickly went back to the system and brought up some fields in front of it. And as you can see, it did not change the operational status, but it did change the install status. Now, if you're wondering why this is happening, that's because of the asset sync. And how do I see that which asset is syncing where? So you can see in the if you can go and type asset, and under the asset we have asset field mapping, asset install status, and hardware status. These are the tables where you can find it out, hey, which fields are actually mapped and how it is syncing back and forth. Also, which status are out of box, which are custom mapping. You can also have a quick look over here. How does the states actually flow? So if someone selects a retired in CI, how should it go to ALM hardware? How does it happen on the hardware to CI? So back and forth. Also over here, you can have a quick look on the state mapping. And that's the reason because of that I see retired and scrapped over here. I just selected only disposed, but even though in on the hardware level it is scrapped. All right, so that was all about the retirement part. But how do we actually dispose it? Literally, if I want to delete it, it does not just delete one particular record, it also deletes a dependency. We have a cascade delete. If you have learned it in your CSA certifications, if you delete a one record, if you have a cascade delete enabled, it also delete the cascaded data. And that's how it works over here in here. So if I try to delete a CI or a hardware, it tells me, oh, you do have a hardware connected to it. Would you like to also delete that one? And yes, of course, when I say delete, it also delete both record at the same time. So remember to delete the record both on both sides, because it doesn't really make sense to create a one record only on one side. And this is how you do it, manual cleanup of your asset. And of course, in future, I will tell you how you can automate this via using data manager policy. That's basically how do you manage your cleanup and do the cleanup activity of your CMDB. That's we can go deep dive into it in the future videos. So stay tuned. All right. Now we just saw how do we delete and sync data, but how does it really happen in the background? If you want to deep dive into it, we have, for example, if I update a CI, how does the field is migrated? Who does that? Which particular script does that? So that happens over here when I update an asset fields on a change, it runs on a CMDB CI level. and then it triggers the script include, and it goes back and see the tables of CI mappings, what I showed you before. And similarly happens on the ALM asset table. If someone updates the field over there, it syncs back over here. Uh, let's look into the system, how it looks. Here are the two business rules which runs on change, and both are active, as you can see. One runs on the CMDB CI table, the other one, and you can see it runs the script include asset CI synchronizer. It runs to check whether, hey, you need to sync a table with the LM asset. And also the vice versa for on the LM asset. So when this runs or anything happens over here, it runs and go to CMDB CI table, go find it out there, and then update the value. It stores the previous and current value because it runs on before and it's almost in the last. All right, this one is my very personal and my favorite part where I'm going to talk about is the CSDM synchronization. This is the advanced view, and hey, if you want to sync the life cycle of your CI and hey, life cycle stages, how it really works. So this is how you basically connect CMDB with the CSDM. And when I say connect, like not really literally in terms of table or something like, but it's like, hey, this sync with the thought process, how CSDM work. As you can see, you need to actually first activate the plugin. On the top, you can see CSDM lifecycle sync between CI and asset activated. It needs to install that, otherwise you will not do it. If it is false, we use on the legacy fields, as I mentioned on your left. We use this legacy state and substate field on as the CSDM's asset, CI link, and everything. But on the other side, if you enable it, it basically use the same lifecycle stage, lifecycle status field all over the CI and CMDB and everywhere. That's very helpful for the CSDM 5.0 perspective. In future, we will actually need to move a lot of data to the new states and new value. And personally, I feel this is very valuable for the organization if who wants to move from the older CSDM to the new one. So yeah, that was it. But before I wrap up, let's have a quick recap what we have learned today. So we learned about the triangle. The triangle is like about asset CI and the install base item. Of course, remember that to install CSM to see the item base item install base item. Sorry. This, of course, we also found some hidden properties, how the data is actually synced, what properties is very useful for us to enhance the property and enhance the system performance. We also saw the life cycle manually today, how to create as asset and how to really sync with the CI, how the states maps with each other and everything. Where to find out how the model categories and which model category allows to create an asset, which model category doesn't allow to create a CI, and back and forth. We also saw a few the business rule which does the job in the background for you. So which if a technical error happens, you know where exactly where to go. And we finally know, okay, we are using at the moment the legacy status field as per the out of the box. But of course, in the future, we need to move to the new status field, that is lifecycle stage and lifecycle status. So yeah, that was it for today. And thank you very much for attending this class for today. And thank you very much for today. And see you soon in the next class.